All right, folks, welcome to Don't Be Ridiculous, episode 15, 1-5.
The big 1-5.
That's right, folks. We are,
That's a big 1-5, but whatever.
we are a little more than a baker's dozen into this. How about that?
Hey, speaking of which, serious question here. Do you prefer a soft towel or a hard towel? Older kind of raggedy towel when drying off in the shower, the shower.
Soft.
Soft, really? I kind of have to go with the old raggedy towel. I feel like you dry off better. It's a little rougher. You just kind of get a good, you feel like with a softer towel, I don't know, I'm rubbing on it and I just feel like, am I dry? I don't know. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Yeah.
Add that to the list of things I have never thought about once. This would be the first time.
Well, I wasn't thinking about it too much. Then I'm watching an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm and I'm like, because he's talking about I like older towels because they're easier to dry off with. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. Anyway. Anyway, on to more important stuff.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about today. NFL Sunday. It's Sunday about 7:15 p.m. Eastern time.
Right.
So all the NFL games today. Crazy day of college football yesterday. Last day of the regular season for college football. So we got a lot.
Yeah. The conference championship games are next Sunday.
Next Saturday. So we've got a lot to talk about. But Clark, you sent me this. You had your NFL tiers. I thought, this is a really fun topic that you've been talking about. So let's go, man. Put it out there.
So basically, so we listen to Colin Cowherd a lot, and he's got his NFL hierarchy, herd hierarchy, which is funny because he's, he introduces it and he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm not really sure about this because it seems to change week to week. So he at least acknowledges that. But, Nick Wright does he does the NFL tiers, on I think Tuesday.
Right.
Or Monday or Tuesday. I'm not really sure. But, and those are if you've been watching the show all through the season, it's pretty hilarious how he's doing it. I mean, you kind of feel like he's acknowledging that it's a little ridiculous, but it's, anyway, this is ripe for making fun of. So anyway, so let's see. And these are kind of in an order from kind of the lowest tiers to the highest tiers, but it's, as you get further up, it gets kind of muddy as to who, I'm not really ranking them in terms of teams. I think you'll get it as I read them. So in the This Is Just Sad tier, we have the Detroit Lions, which I don't know. I mean, I don't really need to say much more. I mean, this year's been really sad because they've lost they had like a 65-yard field goal?
Yeah, 66.
Possession games. They just lost on Thanksgiving by 2 points. So, yeah, it's just, they're kind of, I don't know if you want to say they're a cursed franchise or just the people running it just really don't give a shit about winning. I don't know. The next tier, at least we aren't the Lions tier. We have the Texans, the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Giants because, they've at least won a little bit. I mean, the Giants won today. They beat the Eagles. So the Eagles are they're 4-6. I guess they're 4-7 now. So, that's not a bad win,
Right.
What the hell have you been doing the last 3 years tier? We have the Seahawks and the Dolphins. Because the Seahawks have Russell Wilson. Why isn't the defense better? Why don't you have a better offensive line? Why can't you run the ball effectively? Why can't you protect Russell Wilson? The Dolphins, you've been rebuilding for 3 years. How is your offensive line and statistically like the worst in the league? And then Colin Cowherd saying, oh, their defense is really good. Statistically, their defense is not that good. I looked at it. The rushing defense is like 13th, and then their passing defense is, I think it was like 29th, and then their total defense is 31st. And you might say, well, the rushing defense is okay. I feel like they've been behind in some of these games, so the rushing defense is, I don't know.
Well, the thing with that is that the defense has been good the last 4 games, including today. So that's what you. Excuse me.
That's the Texans, the Panthers, and the. Who else did they play? Oh, the
Baltimore
Ravens. Yeah, on a short week. So
No, listen, the last 4 games, obviously, they're not playing the best opponents.
yeah.
So yeah,
We'll get more into the Dolphins later. I mean, I'm just kind of talking about they've done a poor job drafting the last few years, and
no, it makes sense.
Next year, do we have a QB? Question mark. The Eagles. I don't fucking know. The then the next tier, we don't need to draft a QB tier. Redskins, Carolina, and Denver, because they could have drafted a quarterback last year, but no, we're fine. We got it. I mean, the Panthers, we're just going to trade for Sam Darnold. And then when that doesn't work, we're gonna bring in Cam Newton's corpse, because who can't throw the ball? He was 5 of 20 today.
Well, and the funniest part about that is, Carolina's like, they tried Teddy Bridgewater last year. They're like, you know what, that doesn't work. But in Denver, who refuses to draft a quarterback, is like, you know what, he didn't work for your team. We'll take him.
Yeah, we're good.
What are you doing? Like, and then the Carolina's like, no, we'll trade a whatever draft pick for Sam Darnold. And it's just, you just shake your head, and it's like, this is why the same teams are losing every single year. Because, you had Justin Fields and Mac Jones sitting there. What are you doing? And it's not, and this is the thing, everybody wants to give the Patriots credit for drafting Mac Jones, when really it's just because the rest of the NFL is incompetent.
Yeah. I mean, he felt like way far. I mean, so it's just like, guys, the Redskins, you could have drafted a quarterback. No, we're good with Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, sure. The next tier, we got a QB, but we're probably going to fuck it up. The Bears. Because, they've just, I don't know what the hell's going, like, I mean, literally, you're hearing all this speculation they're going to fire Matt Nagy, and it's like, well, why the hell if you were going to fire him, just fire him in the offseason. Why would you draft a quarterback, have him 1 year, and then fire the coach? Like, what the hell are you doing? And their offensive line, I mean, obviously, they're in a much better position than, say, the Dolphins are. But, they've got to figure out what the hell they're doing, because it looks like they don't know what they're doing. Plus, it's the Bears, and their history with quarterbacks is, really awful. Let's see. We draft wide receivers really well, and that's it. The Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's pretty much what they do. They draft really good wide receivers, and
you didn't include the Steelers in that?
No.
Yeah.
Where did I put the Steelers?
Yeah, the Steelers should definitely be in that tier.
You know what? I missed that's it. Yeah, that's the one team I missed putting in there. Yeah, the Steelers.
We draft receivers, and we can't let go of our aging quarterback,
Yeah. I mean, like today, I mean, if you're watching Roethlisberger, you're watching Cam Newton. I mean, it's over, guys. It's kind of done. Let's see the next tier. For some reason, we beat good teams, but we're not that good. The Saints. I don't know what to make of the Saints. They're good on defense, and they're quarterbacked by Trevor Siemian and maybe Taysom Hill. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Our team is run by a cartoon character, and used to be coached by a cartoon character, the Raiders. Have you ever seen a picture of Mark Davis? I mean, I don't even know what the hell he looks like. He looks like some weird like kid's doll or something. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, he's got the bowl haircut with the
bowl. It's creepy. And then John Gruden, he was Chucky was his nickname. Of course, it turns out John Gruden was just a giant asshole. Let's see. The thanks for finally showing up tier, the Chiefs, the Colts, the 49ers, and the Vikings, because, they started off the year, I don't know what the hell was going on, and now they're actually playing like we thought maybe they were capable of at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, listen, I'm big on the Colts and the 49ers, man. I'm buying. I bought up all the stock. I did not sell it when they were bad, and I don't know what's taken so long for them to get their act together, but I'm a fan. I think both teams could be dangerous.
Yeah. Let's see the next tier. The curses are real tier. The Browns, the Bengals, and the Chargers. I shouldn't have put the Chargers in there. I don't know, but I mean the Browns and the Bengals. I mean, look at the Browns, right? They got a really good roster, but their quarterback is, Baker Mayfield's good, but he's not. He's obviously not an elite quarterback. They're going to be held back by that. And then of course they have. Colin Cowherd talks about this. They're a city that has really low sports self-esteem. and they probably shouldn't have been playing Baker Mayfield the last month to let his injuries try to heal up. Because I mean, he can barely throw the ball.
Yeah, those three teams have histories, and you could almost put the Vikings in there too. These teams have histories of just not being able to, they lose close games, they lose games that they should win, they underachieve, and I think, obviously those teams are three of those, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Chargers are trying to change that with their quarterback, and they all have weird situations, right? Cleveland, they had a team, then the team left, then they got it back. And so it's all over the place.
The Chargers have the best chance to turn it around because they actually have really good quarterbacks. But, again, the Bengals are just, I'm putting their cursed because, remember they had Carson Palmer?
Right.
And they made the play the year the Steelers won the year that Roethlisberger won his first Super Bowl. The Steelers had to win the last 5 games in a row just to get into the playoffs, and they got in as a wild card because the Bengals won the division. Okay, they had Carson Palmer, they had Chad Johnson when Chad Johnson was in his prime. They had a really good team, and so they're in a home playoff game. The first home playoff game in who knows how long, and one of the first, I don't know if it was the first play, maybe it was the second play from scrimmage. Carson Palmer long bomb down the field, caught by Ocho Cinco. Oh, sorry, somebody rolled up on Carson Palmer's knee and he tore his ACL. And so then they end up losing that game. That's just an example of how they're kind of cursed, I guess you could say.
Yeah. When your quarterback has a season-ending injury on a touchdown pass.
Yeah, that's pretty much yeah. I mean, the Browns, we could go into the drive and the fumble and the
Right. Yeah, they have tortured histories, and the Chargers. I mean, they don't even have a home. San Diego, nobody went to the games in San Diego. Now they're in Los Angeles, and every Chargers game, a home game, is filled with the other fans.
Yeah.
I don't even know. At least in Ohio, those two teams are supported by, in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Chargers have been cursed by they blow close games. It's been going on. Now, granted, they won last week, and so you think maybe they can kind of get out of that, which maybe they can. Justin Herbert's really good. But that's been something they've been doing for 20 years now. Let's see. I was kind of inspired by the beginning of the song "Hot for Teacher" by Van Halen with this tier. Hey, I heard you missed us. We're back, and we're probably cheating. The Patriots. I don't actually think they're cheating, but just I just got to get a little dig in there, because we've been annoyed by the Patriots for 20 years, and we finally thought. Maybe they're going away, but no, they're not going away. They're just fucking back.
I have to say, I've turned a corner on the Patriots. I'm good. I'm good with it now. I don't have real concerns that they're going to win the Super Bowl. So
yeah, we talked about this before. I'm not mad at the Patriots. I'm just mad at if you're a Dolphins or Jets fan, the fact that it's been 20 years and you guys haven't gotten your shit together for when Brady left, Anyway, what's the next tier? This tier's tip of the cap. The Ravens, the Titans, and the Steelers, because they've all the Ravens and the Titans have had injuries, serious injuries to big parts of their team, but they're still playing hard. The Titans, I still think they probably make the playoffs, but I don't like their chances to do any damage. The Ravens, they're just too reliant on Lamar Jackson doing everything and being special all the time. The Steelers, they've got a quarterback who's basically done, yet, Mike Tomlin, who's a really good coach, he's got the defense playing well, and he's figured out a way to get them to win games. They're still 500. So, let's see, what's the next tier? Are we expecting too much from you tier? The Rams, the Bucks, and the Bills. Because the Rams, as we've been watching the last few games, they've lost some games. They look kind of bad. The Bucks, it's weird. They look pretty good against some bad teams, but then against some good teams, they either lose or they just don't look that good. The Bills, they got problems. Their offensive line doesn't look very good. They're not running the ball really well. Josh Allen is kind of scattershot with some of his throws. He's been inconsistent. So I don't know, there's expectations with him that they could be really good, but maybe we're just expecting too much.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, and then the last tier, the how good can they be tier. the Cardinals, the Packers, and the Cowboys. I kind of put that as an open question because the Cardinals, is Kyler Murray going to be healthy? The Packers, they've had a bunch of injuries, but they actually look like they may be the best team in the league. The Cowboys, they got a lot of talent. They've had some injuries lately, and they've been losing. So, it's tough to kind of gauge. So I'm pretty sure I got all 32 teams in there. So those are my tiers, folks.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool exercise. Good ideas there. Yeah, so I thought that was definitely worth waiting for. So I had some thoughts on the games today, some things that I wanted to bring up. So I mean, from watching the game, obviously, Cam Newton stinks. I think
he was 5 of 20, I think.
Right. I think we knew that last year, but it was quite obvious today. Yes.
Well, his mechanics on throwing aren't very good, and so that's kind of part of the reason he's had shoulder problems. So, and he's never really been really accurate. So, and that kind of causes a problem. He's been, you can tell that they've been using his size and using his athleticism, in their favor. Like he got that touchdown run in the game today, and he ran for a couple touchdowns in the game last week, which that's kind of what you have to do because as a thrower, it looks like he's kind of limited.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of, I think we kind of knew that, but that kind of struck me. So what do you think about the Colts? I think the Colts' physicality and the fact that they run the ball really well, and they lost to Tampa, a few hours ago, but I thought they showed themselves pretty well. Tampa's still a good team. They're not a great team, but I think the Colts are legit. I think they're gonna, if they get into the playoffs.
Consider they lost to the Titans both times. So yeah, and I don't want to. First place in their division is very, very likely out of the question. But the Titans are having a hell of a time scoring points and running their offense without Derrick Henry.
Right,
and he's probably not going to be back. So they've got 4 losses now. No, they've got 5. Right? Okay, they have 5. The Colts have 6. Right. So it's okay. That gets a little dicey. We've got 5 games left.
Some teams have 5 games left.
Yeah, right. So 5 or 6 games left. So first place could still be there. So then, if you're talking about they're going to get home field, but even if they don't have home field, or even if they don't have a home playoff game.
No,
if they can run the ball like that, it doesn't matter where you are. Like that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, Tennessee is 8-4. The Colts are 6-6.
Oh, okay.
I think I like them to start the season just because the offensive and defensive lines, are very good.
Years.
And Wentz again made had a fumble today that hurt them. They had a 10-point lead and they ended up losing the game. So it's a little, yes, there are some concerns there, but overall Wentz does not have that, he's not turning the ball over at an alarming rate.
We had that last podcast. Yeah, right. So they've got a good roster, and it looks like they're kind of getting into a flow, and like Carson Palmer's getting into how good he can be. So they could potentially be a dangerous team because Carson Palmer, he can make plays. Okay, he's physically talented. He can move around. He can throw the ball. Today there was a deep throw that was just perfect. It was a dime. So he's they could be potentially dangerous.
Okay, so are the Patriots the best team in an average AFC?
Possibly. They beat. Now, granted, I don't want to make too much of them beating the Titans because they didn't have Derrick Henry, so it's just kind of, But if you watch some of the throws Mac Jones is making, it's like, and it's I've said this before, it's like a few times a game he's making some throws into some tight windows, and that's how you make plays, and that's how you can end up scoring points. So. And it looks like they're bringing him along and he's learning more and more and more. So,
I just think for the Patriots, I think they're in the conversation for the best team. You have to match their physicality and
Right.
the
I'm not saying because of Mac Jones. It's their running game and their defense and their physicality at the line of scrimmage.
yep.
So
Yeah, you have to be able to match that, and honestly, I just don't. They're not a whole lot of teams that can match that because the Patriots don't make mistakes, they don't do anything stupid, so they're going to be right there in the game no matter what you do. You're not
right.
going to just dominate the.
And look, for the Chiefs, I mean, their offense still isn't right. They're still figuring it out. Their defense is way better than it was, but offensively, it's like, I mean, that game against the Cowboys. I mean, didn't Mahomes still have 2 turnovers?
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, if he's going to do that in a playoff game, then you might be screwed because, I mean, how well is their defense going to hold up, over the course of a game in a playoff game? I mean, like, so yeah, they may kind of be that because the Ravens, they've had injuries and they're just Lamar has to be really, really special all the time for them to win. Right. So, the Bengals and the Chargers, I mean, come on. It's just, and I'm trying to think other than that, is there anyone else in the AFC that's like a contending team? No, other than that, I don't think there is. I mean, the Bills, I got questions about the Bills. I mean, their offensive line and their, Josh Allen's he hasn't been as accurate. So
yeah, it's a huge game. Buffalo's playing New England next week for the lead in the division, and that's going to be a big game because whoever wins that game is going to have a shot to get the 1 seed in the AFC. So yeah.
Well, because let's see, the Patriots. Oh, okay. The Patriots are the 2 seed right now.
Right.
Because the Ravens play the Browns tonight. So that'll, that can kind of, like, if the Ravens lose, then the Patriots are the number 1 seed, right? Or I don't know how the tiebreakers work. So yeah, I mean, it's almost just kind of by default. It's like we were talking about last podcast, like the Patriots they go out there and, Belichick coaches them up so they're not out there fucking around. And that's like half the battle. I mean, if you're not out there screwing around, then you're going to be in a better position to make plays and just keep yourself in the game. And if you're in the game, you got a chance to win. So,
yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of.
Well, the end of, did we talk about the NFC? I mean, I guess the Packers look like they could be the best team in the league. Right. The Cardinals, I would still keep the Cardinals high up. I'm just kind of, is Kyler Murray healthy and, are they going to have too many injuries or anything like that? But I think that, and they just don't have the playoff experience. So, that's kind of my concern with them. Aaron Rodgers has won the Super Bowl and been to the NFC Championship game multiple times. So,
yeah, it looks like the Packers are about to finish off the Rams here. So yeah, I think if the Packers get the guys back on defense, they're really good. They've got a good enough team on both sides of the ball to win the whole thing. I agree with you on the Cardinals. As far as NFC team goes, I think the 49ers could be really dangerous. They won today, so they're 6-5. So I think they could be a problem if somebody plays them. You have to play them in the playoffs because, again,
right, if they're running the ball like that, that's going to be and their defense, right? That's going to be I mean, it's like anything else. We can come up with all this offensive stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, like the defense and offensive lines, like, how are you doing there? If you're struggling there and the other team's dominating you there, it's going to be very difficult to win. Regardless of the other skill position players and all that other stuff.
Right. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys? The Cowboys lost on Thanksgiving in overtime to the Raiders.
I kind of don't even know what to think. Like, I'm like, they have to be healthy, right? And so their offensive line, I guess they had some injury. They've got some injuries with that, and then they didn't have all their receivers. But they still almost won that game. They lost that game in overtime, and there was was that an interference penalty? Yeah, there was the pass interference penalty.
Right. I think
Cowboys lost the game because of all the penalties, which I don't know. I mean, some of those plays were penalties. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So I think the Cowboys defense got exposed a little bit The defense was kind of stuck out there a lot in that game, and I think
the Raiders probably. I mean, maybe the Raiders probably win that game if they have a deep threat. They've been kind of struggling because they don't have, and now they got Deshaun Jackson. So I guess they're kind of trying to figure it out. But I mean, and it's on a short week, so and I guess it's more of a desperation game for the Raiders because the Raiders can't, at this point you can't afford to be losing games if you want to make the playoffs. So.
Right. Yeah. So I think the Cowboys offense has to really be solid. Not only do they need to score, but they need to monopolize the ball. Otherwise it creates a problem. And I think, you can kind of see that in the playoffs, if you're playing an Aaron Rodgers or a Matthew Stafford or a Kyler Murray, that you're going to have a problem. That, if you're not really sound on defense, there's quarterbacks that can take advantage of that, especially in the NFC when we have all those great quarterbacks.
Remember, Dak's good, but I don't consider Dak an elite quarterback, and I don't think that's some sort of outlandish, like I'm hating on him or anything. He's just not.
Well, and, the combination of Dak has to play against the Packers defense or the Rams defense or the 49ers defense, where the Cowboys don't have a defense like that. So I think that, yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Packers are really good. I think Arizona's right there with them. I think, Tampa won today. They don't look great, but they're coming along. And so I think we're going to wait about 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to look for the team that gets hot, and that's the team that we're going to be worried about.
That tends to be
So, all right. Did you have anything else on the NFL?
I don't want to go into the fourth down thing. The Rams are going to end up losing this game, but they essentially gave away 3 points in the first half. They had a drive. It was like their second or third drive of the game, and they were in their own territory. And they had a 4th and 1, and they went for it, and they didn't get it. And the Packers kicked the field goal. So you basically just gave away 3 points, and it's like you're only down 7-0. I don't know why you're risking the whole game there. So anyway, I guess that's pretty much it for the NFL.
Okay.
Talk about the Dolphins at all? We kind of.
That's right. We got to do right. That's right.
Yeah. Last thing. Okay. Because my theory was this Dolphins game today. If you wanted to really look at it a certain way, this could kind of encapsulate the Dolphins' entire season.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Let's start off the game. So. Let's see. I think the Dolphins got the ball first. Okay, right. They got it first, and then they started moving down the field, which they've been doing that a lot this year. They get the ball first, or their first drive of the game, and they drive right down the field, right? And then what happened? Tua got they were in field goal range, right? Yeah, they were in field goal range, and then the snap, it was somewhat of a bad snap, but Tua should have had it, and the ball kept rolling, tumbling behind him, and it knocked him out of field goal range. So that knocked him out of getting points. So, which is kind of when you start off the year 1-7, that's what happens. I was trying to think what else in the game. The Dolphins, okay, so they end up blocking a punt for a touchdown, which is like, okay, so if they get a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown, they're probably going to win the game, which they did.
Right.
The offense ends up scoring, I think, like 27 points. 27 points, that's kind of what they ended. The final score was 33-10, but they had that special teams touchdown. So there was that. There was another time where Tua bobbled the snap. It was kind of a bad snap, but and then they had 2 false start penalties in a row, which is kind of like that must be some sort of coaching issue, right? Which we've been complaining about. And then there was also Flores challenged a incomplete pass. Cam Newton threw a pass to the receiver, and it wasn't a catch because he sort of caught it, but he didn't have enough time to plant his feet and start making a football move.
Right.
And then the ball came out. So, and you watch it and you go, oh, yeah, that's obviously incomplete. But no, of course, Flores challenges it. What I thought was even funnier was that the commentators, they brought, it was on Fox, so they brought Mike Pereira in to discuss it. And he's like, yeah, I don't know why they're doing this challenge. This is a bad challenge. It's very obviously an incomplete pass, And then you actually had some good plays on offense where, Tua was accurate, which he's been accurate his whole career. He was accurate to Jalen Waddle on one play where he caught him in stride and then he started running after the catch. And he did that another time. He had a touchdown in the end zone. I'm trying to think, they had a couple interceptions, but yeah, it was just kind of, there's a bunch of things that were happening in this game. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much what's been happening all year. In this game they won, but
Yeah. So do you think the defense is back?
No, the defense isn't back. I'll give the coaching staff credit. They realize that they can't get pressure on the quarterback with their 4 down linemen. So,
they did that okay today.
Okay. They still blitzed a lot.
Right.
I mean, so, but the Panthers don't really have a good offensive line. We knew that when Sam Darnold was a quarterback too. So, look, the Xavier Howard, he got another interception. He's good. He's pretty good. I guess I sort of like some of their cover guys in the secondary. And Jalen Waddle is good. He looks like he's a good player. He seems like somewhat of a possession receiver. And if you can get him in stride like they did a couple times today, yeah, he can go for a pretty big gain. Right. So those kind of plays can work, especially because Tua is really accurate. I mean, again, I don't want to go nuts here because everyone's like, God, his completion percentage in the last couple games is like 80%. Yeah, but watch what the passes he's throwing. There's a lot of screen passes. There's a lot of quick slants. There were some other throws that I liked that he made.
Yeah, he averages about 7 or 8 yards an attempt, which is not fantastic.
Yeah, it's not. It's nothing to write home about. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else that, it's just one of those funny things. Like I'll see stats. I some different stuff will pop up on my Facebook feed that's like associated with like Dolphin fan pages and stuff, and they'll point out these weird statistics. And it just reminds me of you remember the movie Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck? He's a baseball, yeah. And they're like the team, because he ends up playing baseball in Japan because the team that he's on in the United States, he's not good enough or whatever. And they're saying, yeah, we're going to get rid of you. And he's like, I won the World Series with this team. I led this club in 9th inning doubles in the month of August. Just the way that they're kind of manipulating stats around Tua, that's what it sounds like to me. They're like, oh, well, he's got this completion percentage at this point in the game or whatever. And I'm just like, no, yeah, but they're 7. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, listen, I mean, this is what I will say. If they protect him, he will make plays. And that's what happened today. Every time they blocked, and the Carolina would bring guys on the edge and the running back would block. Like, they're getting better at picking stuff up. It's not as consistent as I would like, as evidenced by, the fumble and, some of the other things that went wrong protection-wise. But you can see it. If you protect the guy, he's going to find the guy and he's going to hit players. Like, there's other guys, quarterbacks, that's not the case. So, I will give him credit for that. It's unfortunate that they're just now getting to a point where the offensive line is decent. Yeah. And so that's a little bit disturbing. But, I said after they lost to the Colts that the season was over. And I'm not ready to back off of that yet, but let me tell you something. They have the Giants and the Jets. If they win those 2 games, we're going to have an interesting discussion when it comes to they play the Giants and the Jets, and then they play the Saints on Monday night. And they have both these next 2 games at home, and they have a bye, I think, after the second one or after the next one. I don't know which one, but they've made some strides. Got to give them credit. I mean, these aren't great teams that they're beating, but a win in the NFL is a win.
Yeah, and they signed that running back Lindsey. He was pretty good today. So yeah, they need to get some semblance of a running game. to have a shot. And again, the Saints, I put them in that tier where we beat good teams, but we're not really that good. The Saints defense is pretty good. So, and is that game in New Orleans?
Yeah. They have to play. They play two home games, and then they play at New Orleans, at Tennessee, and we finish up with the Patriots at home.
Yeah. So, but we'll see.
Yeah. If they get to 7-7, get this to 7-7, you never know. All right. Anything
else? I would say that like all the issues that I was concerned about, I'm still concerned about. But there's been some things I've seen that I'm like, okay. Like I said, Jalen Waddle looks pretty good. He looks like he can play. He's running routes pretty well, and I mean, they throw the ball to him all the time, which shows you how much they throw it to him a lot and they throw it to Gesicki a lot. They trust those two guys. So,
yeah. All right. Anything else on the Dolphins? Or are you good?
We should do college.
All righty. All right. So listen. As far as college football goes, this was one of the best days of college football that I've ever witnessed. It was tremendous. The Ohio State-Michigan game in the snow was fantastic. The Auburn-Alabama game was just ridiculous. Yeah. You couldn't believe.
Bryce Young for Alabama, I mean, he made pressure throw after pressure. I mean, like third downs where you got to have it. I mean, and he was right on the money with a lot of those throws. That was,
Yeah. And then, at night, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, that was fantastic games. These games had great atmospheres. It was so much fun. It really was. So, let's just a couple of things I want to go through. So, I'm happy for Michigan. I really am. I'm happy for Harbaugh that they pulled that one out. Harbaugh's been getting ripped for 5-6 years now for not beating Ohio State. And, they pulled it off. So, I don't know how much of the game you saw, but
yeah, I mean, it's, again, you look at the score 42-27, it's like, whoa. I mean, granted, it was a one-score game, and then, Michigan just ran the ball down their throat to end the game. They got another rushing touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, good for him. I mean, they got to go. Don't get too crazy. You got to go beat Iowa if you want to get into the college football playoff. And then at that point, it's kind of like, look, if you beat Ohio State, and if you get into the college football playoff, that probably buys you a year or two of people not bitching and moaning about not winning a national championship or something.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Michigan basically physically pushed them around the whole game. They started from the beginning and just absolutely hammered them. And Michigan, not only on offense but on defense, they were playing a lot of those receivers man-to-man, one-on-one, and sending guys to the quarterback. And they did a hell of a job. I mean, for the most part, barring some crazy catches that Ohio State made on some fourth downs. I mean, that game, Ohio State was lucky that game was even close because Michigan made some mistakes early in the game that they could have. They separated themselves in that game anyway, but so that was eye-opening. I couldn't believe that after everything, all the games Ohio State's been through, that they got, pushed.
I mean, Michigan, I mean, we'll go into the playoff implications, but it's basically like Michigan wins, they beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship. They're in. I don't know what they'll be ranked, but they'll be somewhere 2 through 4.
Right. Yeah. And then the Auburn Alabama game. I mean, listen, I gotta.
I mean, they were dead to rights.
I mean, I have to give Auburn credit. Auburn's defense was tremendous. They were all over them the whole game. Like, they did not allow them to run the ball. They were all over the receivers. They were all over the quarterback. Even when Alabama protected a little bit, they still managed to get there and make it incredibly difficult. And Auburn's playing with their backup quarterback, who this is his second game, and he sprains his ankle, so he basically can't move.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that they had a 10-0 lead halfway through the fourth quarter is just, it was unbelievable. So yeah, I think it kind of should.
The other thing we should point out, let's not forget this because Alabama's got to go play Georgia. Alabama's kind of struggled all year, and In that game, remember they had the ball and they tried to drive down. They couldn't. They got to fourth down. They had to punt it, and then Auburn's trying to run out the clock, and one of their guys runs out of bounds. Now, even if he hadn't run out of bounds because they ended up stopping him on third down, they would have had less time. They might not have been able to had enough time to get down the field. Nope. Again, I don't want to take anything away from Bryce Young because he was making pressure throws where it's like the season's on the line here, third down, you got to make this happen. And he's trying to avoid rushers and stuff. And he just made great throw after like throws that were just perfect on the money, on time. So I got to give them a lot of credit, but it's kind of like they're going to play Georgia, and it's like, oh, they beat Auburn. Yeah, but, like you said, Auburn, they're playing with their backup quarterback, and Alabama's been struggling all year, and they were behind like 10-0 late in the game. So doesn't really bode well for, their chances against Georgia.
Yeah, no, and listen, just to, I just like to lodge a complaint. I figured this out recently, and I thought of this a little while ago that Paul Feinbaum, right? He does he's on ESPN a lot, and he does a radio show in Alabama. I think Paul Feinbaum is the Skip Bayless of college football because everything is a complaint. Nobody's ever good enough. Okay, he's been saying for 5 years Harbaugh is not capable of beating Ohio State. He's been ripping Harbaugh a new one, even though Michigan wins 9 to 10 games a year. It's ridiculous. And then finally Michigan comes in, pounds Ohio State. And then Auburn, almost wins this game. Yeah, it's disappointing that they lost, but Jesus, Auburn has a first-year coach. Their quarterback broke his ankle, so they don't have their quarterback. If they have Bo Nix in that game, they blow Alabama out. That game isn't even close. So, and then Feinbaum comes out and says, Auburn blew it. They blew the Iron Bowl. They should have won that game. Yes, they should have won the game, okay? But let's slow down on this is a crisis. They played Alabama without their quarterback and basically no offense and almost beat them. Like it took 4 overtimes for Alabama to beat them. So it's absolutely ridiculous that people are like, and I read a tweet from Danny Cannell today. Oh, look at all these 6-6 and 7-5 teams in the SEC. Okay, I'm here to tell you, Auburn's defense is better than any defense Cincinnati has played this year.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So stop complaining. Yeah, they lose games. You know why? Because they're playing SEC teams, for Christ's sake. They're not in these conferences.
I'm ripping on Alabama, but it's like you got to play LSU, you got to play Ole Miss, you got to play Texas A&M, you got to play, you got to play Auburn. And you're like, well, even if Auburn's not having a good year, it's the Iron Bowl. Like that is such like everybody gets up for that, especially you're going into Auburn to play. So. Yeah, like people should slow down about that.
Yeah, and then the late game, Oklahoma State, that was a tight game, and Oklahoma State's defense basically shut out Oklahoma in the second half.
Yeah,
the only scoring Oklahoma got was from fumbles and mistakes by Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma's offense did nothing the entire second half, no points. So I think it's kind of a statement. I think it's kind of cool that the Big 12 is not quite the same as it used to be. I think there actually is some kind of defense being played, which is kind of cool. So yeah, and that was a great game. So anyway, this is my overall point about college football. So this year has been crazy. We can't figure out who the best team is. We know Georgia's good.
Georgia seems to be better than everybody else, but it's, the other teams, it's kind of,
Right. So it's been all over the place, like the past 3, 4, 5 years. Well, basically since they started the playoff in 2014, it's basically been Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. And those 3 teams are going to be in
Oklahoma or Notre Dame or,
right.
or Oklahoma or Notre Dame. Or it's like, yeah, it's the same,
right. And this year is completely different. So basically, my stance has been this whole time is, I don't think Cincinnati's one of the best 4 teams, but I think they can get into the playoff.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, like when it comes to college football this season, I'm from Missouri. As in, you got to show me.
Okay.
So Alabama, I've seen them get physically pushed around 3-4 times this year. Ohio State got physically dominated by Oregon, physically dominated by Michigan.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. Convince me that all these teams, take Georgia out of it, they're in no matter what, right? Georgia's outside this conversation. But take any other team. Tell me why they're not a top 4 team.
I mean,
I'm not asking you to do it. It's rhetorical. I'm just
right. You can include Alabama in that, Cincinnati, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State. That's probably it. That's probably the only teams that were like those are like probably the top 6 teams.
Yeah, it's 6 teams basically competing for 4 spots right now. That's basically what it comes down to.
So you want to go through what do we think in terms of how this is going to shake out next week, based on what we think is going to happen in the games?
Right. So it's pretty. You could basically. What I'm saying is, my point is, you could talk me into anything. Like, yeah, Cincinnati doesn't have the resume, but you know what? They're obviously a good team.
Look, Notre Dame's ranked. What are they? 5 now or 6?
They were 6, but they'll probably end up being 5 after this.
Okay, 6 or 5, whatever. So Cincinnati beat them. They have a win over the number 5 ranked. So, that's something. And then if they're playing, is Houston a ranked team?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they beat Houston in their conference championship game, I mean, it's not as good as some of the other resumes out there, but it's pretty good. I guess my question would be with Oklahoma State, because they just beat Oklahoma. If then they go beat Baylor, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So my sense of it is, the Alabama Georgia game is obviously very important to all of this discussion. So we're just gonna, we're going to assume Georgia is going to beat them.
And if Georgia beats Alabama, Alabama's probably out.
Yeah, I don't see how anybody would keep them in the way they've played. They struggled to beat LSU. They really struggled with Auburn with their backup quarterback, like I said. So, yeah, Alabama has struggled this year, and this is kind of what I was, watching on ESPN, what Jesse Palmer was saying is like, this is how Alabama is this year. Like, they struggle in these games. They're really good to pull them out at the end, but they're not, they're nowhere near what they used to be. I think that, so assuming Alabama loses, then obviously Alabama will be in. Obviously, if Alabama loses to Georgia, Georgia would be number 1. I think Michigan's going to be number 2 when the rankings come out on Tuesday. And if they win, they beat Iowa, they will be in. Cincinnati beats Houston. I think they will be number 3. The question will come down to number 4, Oklahoma State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is obviously done. They don't have any more games. And from what I've been hearing from all the people on ESPN and different, they seem to believe that Oklahoma State, if they win against Baylor, they'll jump over Notre Dame, because they would have.
That's a fair argument. I think they have a better resume.
Right. Well, I think the fact that now we'll see where they are this week, whether they jump over them this week. I think the committee is going to keep Notre Dame at 5, and then when Oklahoma State beats Baylor, that would mean Oklahoma State beat 2 top 10 teams and they're a conference champion. I think that will vault them ahead of Notre Dame. Just kind of going through the teams. I mean, to me, everybody's got flaws and everybody's got positives, right? I mean, Notre Dame's a tough team on both sides of the ball, but they're not special at anything. You know, they're just solid. They're good at everything. I mean, Alabama, obviously great offensive talent, but they don't have an incredible defense. The defense is good, not great. And their offensive line is a problem.
Yeah.
People have been able to manhandle them. I mean, if you watch these games from this weekend, I mean, it looked to me like Michigan would give Alabama all they could handle, with their offensive and defensive line. So that would be a problem. Ohio State, they just can't stop the run. Any team that's good at running the football is going to challenge them, but offensively, Ohio State is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Michigan, I mean, they're just dominant. They play. This to me is the Michigan team that plays most like a Harbaugh team. They play exactly like if you watch Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco with the 49ers, this is how they played. They just smacked you around. They made some plays. Their defense wore you out with how relentless they were. Oklahoma State, again, it's kind of a solid team. They play solid defense. Their quarterback can make some plays out of the pocket. Cincinnati is same thing, kind of a good all around team. They have a good quarterback, pretty good offense, pretty good defense. So anyway, like I'm saying, you could really talk me into anything at this point. But yeah, I think if Oklahoma State wins their next game next week, they should probably get in over Notre Dame.
I think so, and I think that's probably the right decision. But let's play devil's advocate. What if Alabama beats Georgia?
So yeah, then I think
I think both of them get in because Georgia, especially because if Alabama wins, I think it's going to be a close game, and then it's going to be like Georgia beat everybody else. So I don't think, and they only have one loss. I don't see how you can keep them out.
Yeah, then I think the conversation would be, assuming Michigan wins, it would be either Alabama or Michigan. One of them would be number one. Okay. And then probably the other one that's not number one would be number two. They'd probably put Cincinnati 3, and then they would probably put Georgia in at 4.
Okay.
Or, right. You never know with that because Georgia.
I think Oklahoma State could jump Cincinnati.
With one, I don't think so. I think if Cincinnati wins, as long as they win their game, they'll be a conference champion and they'll be undefeated. I don't think they're going to make that move at this point. It'd be like putting in Alabama with 2 losses. The amount of screaming from the top of the hills that everybody would do if they did that would be a little bit much. And I think the committee is reasonable, not perfect, but reasonable. Okay. Do you think Michigan should be number 2 after that win? Because that's a pretty darn good win.
Yeah, I guess so. Because what is it right now? What are the top 4 right now? It's Georgia.
Well, before the games were played, it was Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati.
And Michigan was 6th? 5th. Okay. But you put them above Cincinnati, and then I don't know. I can. I would say they probably put them there. Yeah. Just because that win, the fact that they dominated them, because Bama won, but it was very difficult. It took them 4 overtimes. So do you think that Cincinnati would be ranked ahead of Bama in the rankings that come up Tuesday?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Oh, okay, wait. Well, no, not yet. No, not yet. If they lose to Georgia, I think Cincinnati will be.
No. I'm talking about right now. The rankings they're going to do.
No, I don't think they'll put Cincinnati ahead of Alabama.
Okay.
I think it'll be tempting, but I don't think they'll do that. Okay. But yeah, I'm interested. Honestly, I think the playoff matchups could be fascinating. Like I was looking at it, like if we assume Georgia's going to beat Alabama, right? It could be Georgia against Oklahoma State, and then Michigan versus Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That could be a lot. It could be a lot of fun. We might not have, the blowouts that we usually have.
Maybe,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Todd McShay had a tweet that I thought was interesting. He said that if it came down to, even though Ohio State lost, like he said, if it came down to Ohio State and Cincinnati, that Ohio State's a better team.
Which I don't have a problem with that.
Right. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody went crazy, but obviously I don't think ESPN was real thrilled that he put that out there because everybody got everybody into a crazy state about it. But yeah, listen, this is the thing, like to me that I made those point about all these teams. I think like if there's ever a year that just, needs a 12-team playoff, this is it. Because there's just not none of what's the difference? There's not a big difference between any of these teams. So yeah, I hope that we get it. Apparently they're meeting, the college football commissioners are meeting on December 1st to talk about it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope we get it sooner than later. The other thing is obviously huge news came out just before we came onto the podcast. So Lincoln Riley is leaving Oklahoma and he is going to USC, which is an earth-shaking type deal. the early returns. I mean, Colin Cowherd thinks this is a grand slam. He thinks he's perfect for USC. I mean, I will say, Lincoln Riley is a young, good-looking guy, has that kind of Los Angeles Cliff Kingsbury type, look. So I think it could work, but USC is one of those schools. If you can recruit, like, you can be unbelievable because there's so many players in California. You don't even have to
That's
go.
what college football is. If you can recruit, you can be pretty good.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's a little bit of a leap, but I mean, to me, I think it's kind of looking ahead. Oklahoma's going to the SEC, and you can see watching Oklahoma yesterday, they can't compete with the SEC.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I don't want to. We talked about this in probably one of our first podcasts, but why are they going? Like, why are they going to the SEC? I mean, I just don't. I guess it's just the revenue thing.
Yep. It's
Okay.
got to be. It's got to be. I mean, obviously they're making more money because yeah, they're not going to be more competitive. And the best path to the playoff is to win the Pac-12. I mean, if you get, again, we've seen what happens. If USC, Texas, Miami, they get the right coach, it happens quick. So we'll see. I'm excited. I hope that he can get that turned around because we need a Western college football team to be good.
Come to a regional. It's too much in the South. You need a mix of schools to get everybody. And it's like, look, we could have a conversation about should they have started having a playoff or whatever else, and what are we've already gone down this road. So at this point, it is what it is. They need to expand and they need to get more teams into it because what you don't want is to reach, you want to reach December and have several teams feel like we can potentially win the national championship. Most of them probably can't, but so what? At least they feel like they have a shot. Then you can sell people on that, and then you can sell recruits on that. It just, it snowballs into helping you.
It speaks to how poorly run college football is, okay? They come up with a 4-team playoff when there's 5 power conferences. So basically, they came up with this playoff format where one conference would be eliminated every year, at least one.
Yeah.
Like, what dumbasses came up with this? Like, I mean, my goodness. Like, it's so unbelievable. The sticking point is the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl. And that's gonna be the issue. So we'll see if they can get that worked out.
What do you mean?
Well, so if we'd have a 12-team playoff, like the Rose Bowl is going to want to assure themselves that they get the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. And so that it creates a problem. If you have a 12-team playoff, you're not going to be guaranteed that particular Rose Bowl game that they want.
Okay.
So, because obviously it's likely that we're going to have 2-3 Big Ten teams get into that, if that were to happen. So that to me is the sticking point.
Playoff this year, you would have Michigan and Ohio State, and would Michigan State get in there?
It'd be close.
Yeah, it'd be close. So 3 teams, that's probably about right.
Yeah, you'd at least get 2. And the SEC would probably get 2 or 3, and but I think to me the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, I think they're all in on a 12-team playoff. I think it's the Big 10 and the Pac-12 that are going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
Anyway, tremendous. I can't wait to see. This is the best time of year for college football. I can't wait to see what happens next Saturday, and we'll see. Maybe we'll have some more. We'll have some more craziness.
I mean, hey, if Bama beats Georgia, I think that's going to be pretty interesting. It'll be interesting Sunday when they do the selections at Sunday at noon.
Yeah,
that'll be an interesting next Sunday at noon.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a playoff with no Alabama, no Ohio State, obviously no Clemson, no Oklahoma.
Yeah, so it'd be a totally different,
It's insane. All right, so that's all I had on college football. Did you want to talk NBA?
Well, just real quick. I mean, we had talked about this, several podcasts ago, but I was watching the Oklahoma State-Oklahoma game. I mean, what the hell does college football do? Why are these games taking so damn long? I mean, I'm watching it, and then I look up, it's 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. I'm like, I feel like I've been watching this game for 2 hours. Like, what the hell, So they need to figure that out.
Yeah, it's the college football games. The big ones take 4 hours. It's insane.
Yeah,
It's absolutely nuts. I can't figure out why they take so long. NFL games are significantly shorter. I don't know. I think obviously in college football, if you get a first down, the clock stops. So that's
right.
different. The NFL doesn't have that, so that's part of the issue. I also think the targeting things with the reviews take a little bit longer. Also, they're college football referees, so they're just not as efficient. They take longer to do everything. So yeah, it's insane. Like we're watching, we're flipping between 3 games at a time yesterday, and you're finding all these times where 3 games on and they're all a commercial at the same time. It's just it's lunacy. And, you get so much. I've talked about this before, but soccer and basketball give you so much more bang for your buck.
Yeah,
it's just yeah.
So all right, yeah, that was all I had for college. I'm trying to think of anything else we wanted to talk about. There wasn't much. I mean, I wasn't really watching. I've been paying attention to the NBA a little bit. Phoenix has won 16 games in a row.
Yep. So
everybody was kind of sleeping on them, but they're pretty damn good. And I just watched some highlights of the Bulls playing the Heat the other night. So yeah, those are 2 fun. That'd be a pretty cool playoff series if both those teams played.
Absolutely. What did you think about LeBron getting suspended and smacking the guy in the head and all that?
It was
stuff?
Obviously an accident. LeBron's not a dirty player. I was kind of surprised how much that guy reacted. I guess it's just it reminded me of White Goodman in the movie Dodgeball. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood, because that guy he lost it. Like, I heard some people speculating, was it this that he saw his own blood and that's what caused him to completely lose his shit? Like, I don't know what the hell happened, but yeah, well, it wasn't really a good week for LeBron because he got suspended a game after that, and then the next game he played, he got 2 fans kicked out, and there was I don't know exactly why. And then he ended up getting a technical foul because he made a big shot and then he gestured toward his groin, essentially. I don't know how to describe it, but he got a technical foul. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily a great week for LeBron, and the Lakers are still obviously trying to figure everything out. So, they're a work in progress.
Yeah, I liked JJ Redick was on ESPN, and he basically was like, everybody's freaking out because Isaiah Stewart, they wanted him to all get suspended for 5 or 10 games or something like that. And JJ Redick's like, look, he should get suspended more games because he ran over some coaches. Like, he didn't punch anybody. Like, he didn't, he's okay. But this is not, everything in basketball is a federal case. Right, it's just my good. Anytime something like that happens. Meanwhile, in hockey, they're just skating up to each other, punching each other in the face, and it's fine.
Yeah,
I haven't figured out. And then football, we don't really care. Get them off. Let's start the next play. But it's just amazing to me how basketball turns into this whole thing. There's a couple things. So Draymond Green has a new podcast with the Draymond Green Show. And I've listened to a couple episodes of it. He has JJ Redick on last week. It's good. Draymond's pretty interesting. Like I've heard him when he's been on Inside the NBA, and I think he's definitely got a career there. And the way that their conversation was fantastic. I think Draymond is going to be really good at media. Like if you heard that, I think in the offseason he did that interview with Kevin Durant. And it was surprising how good he was. The other thing is, I think last thing, and I'll leave with this. So I've been talking about, my favorite NBA player is Luka Doncic for the Dallas Mavericks. I call him my Slovenian man crush.
Also Nick Wright's son. Nick Wright is referred to him.
Nick Wright's son. Yeah. So I love Luka. I love his game. I love how much of a badass he is. I love how he gets in people's face. I love how he's like, the stereotype of European players is that they're soft, and Luka is anything but soft.
Yeah.
He is tough as hell. So the corollary, I think I figured it out, is for the in the NFL. I think Joe Burrow. I think he's Luka Doncic. I feel the same way about Joe Burrow that I do about Luka. Joe is a tough SOB. He doesn't back down. There was a play where he threw an interception, and T.J. Watt. It's like, all right, well, he throws an interception. All right, let's block the quarterback. That's what defensive linemen do. So he grabs Burrow, and Burrow fights back. With every, he's trying to knock Burrow down, and Burrow doesn't let him. He basically is just, they both have their hands on each other, and they're both just wrestling with each other. And then he finally, knocks Joe Burrow down. Joe Burrow just gets up like, it's no big deal. Like normally guys he'd be nuts, losing his mind. Didn't bother him at all that the guy was being physical with him. So I just love that. I think he is a bad dude, and he's a playmaker. So I'm excited. Anyway, so thanks everybody. Episode 15.
Remember, next month at some point, the Festivus episode is coming up. The airing of sports grievances.
Airing of grievances.
Long-standing sports grievances. And some grievances just from this season. So,
Absolutely. All right, folks. Take care. Everybody have a great week.
16.